Hello everyone, it's me, Cici, and I suck at capturing things in the moment.
You know when you start knitting or crocheting and then time passes and all of a sudden it's been like an hour?
So this was gonna be a video of the first art trade I've ever done, but instead I am making a tutorial for one of the easiest pairs of gloves you will ever make. You're gonna need three things for this. Number one, you need yarn. Number two, you need needles that match the gauge of your yarn. And number three, you need a needle to weave in your ends. Now the first thing you're going to want to do is take a couple of measurements for your hand. The first measurement is going to be the circumference of your hand at your first knuckle. Your second will be the length between your first knuckle and the top of your thumb. The third will be the actual width of your thumb, and the fourth will be the circumference of your wrist. Using those numbers and the gauge listed on your yarn of choice, we are going to calculate how many stitches and rows you are going to need at different points in the pattern. I will link a video about gauge down in the comments below if you don't know what gauge is. Now for those of you who don't know, gauge is usually calculated in a 4" by 4" square, but we are going to be using 1" by 1". Go ahead and take the gauge for the rows and the stitches and divide them both by 4 to get your stitches and rows per inch. After that, multiply all of your circumferences, so around the knuckles and the wrist, by stitches per inch. Then multiply all the length and width, like the width from your first knuckle to your thumb and the width of your actual thumb, by rows per inch. I would also recommend listing your measurements as A, B, C, and D for your knuckle circumference, length between first knuckle and thumb, width of your thumb, and wrist circumference, because that is how it will be listed up on screen. And now we are finally getting to the knitting. To start off, you are going to do a long tail cast on. We're doing a long tail cast on because it is a little bit more stretchy than a regular cast on. I like to gauge how much I will need for my long tail cast on by wrapping it around my cast on point 3 to 4 times. From there, go ahead and make a slip knot. And then slip your thumb and your pointer finger between the tail and the end that goes back to the yarn with the tail facing you. Pick up a loop from your thumb, yarn over with the back yarn, and pull through. Continue this until you have the number of stitches that you will need to fit around the circumference of your first knuckles, or measurement A. Now here's a little trick that I have if your circular needles are a little bit too small for the project you're working on. Go ahead and find the center of your stitches. Pull the beginning of round to the end of the needle, and leave the rest of the stitches hanging off. From there, it'll be a lot easier to pick up the first stitch. Now, I did not place a beginning of round marker here, but I would recommend you place a beginning of round marker here. From there, go ahead and do your basic knit stitch in the round. And continue that until you have the correct amount of rows between your first knuckle and your thumb, or measurement B. Once you have completed all of your rows, you are going to take off your stitch marker. This is where the thumb hole will be. You can do this technically at any point in the glove. You can do this at the beginning of round, but I like to go halfway around so that the beginning of round is hidden on the outside of the hand. From here, we're going to turn our work and purl in the opposite direction. This will create a slit where the thumb will be able to fit through. Once you've made it back to the thumb hole, go ahead and turn your work again and knit in the opposite direction. Continue knitting and purling back and forth until you have a large enough hole to fit your thumb, or measurement C. Part of the reason I like to use circular needles is because it is a lot easier to put it onto your hand and try it on to see how it fits. If your thumb hole feels a little bit small, add 1 or 2 more rows. It is better for it to be larger than smaller. And if you're stuck on a purl row, do 1 more row until you are back to knitting again. This is a personal preference. I just like knitting better than purling. If you prefer purling better, then you can continue making the glove on the purl side. From here, we are going to go back to knitting in the round. Do 1 row of knit stitches. Again, I did not put a beginning of round marker where the thumb hole is, but I would recommend putting a beginning of round marker where the thumb hole is. So after you've closed the loop, done a round, done a second round to make sure that the loop close is stable, so that's 2 rounds of knit stitches overall, we are going to start our decreases to get to measurement D, or the circumference of your wrist. So what we're going to do is 3 stitches before your beginning of round marker at the thumb hole, you are going to take 2 stitches. Now I like to slip them around so that the stitch that is farthest from the stitch marker is on top of the closer one. And what we're going to do is knit those 2 together by slipping through both stitches, yarning over, and pulling through. After that, we are going to continue and knit the stitch directly before the stitch marker, slip the stitch marker, and knit the stitch directly after the stitch marker. From here, we are going to knit 2 together on the left side. Now this is a bit strange because you have to go in from the second loop, through both stitches, yarn over, and pull through. Again, that was very poorly illustrated because my hands were not in frame, but I will post a video about knitting 2 together on the left and on the right down in the description box below. Continue this alternation of straight knit rows and decreases until you get to the circumference of your wrist, or measurement D. Once you have reached the circumference of your wrist, go ahead and do as many rows as you would like to make the gloves as long as you would like. After that, we are going to do a stretchy bind off. Now I will link the video to this bind off down below, but essentially what you do is knit 2 and then knit those 2 that you just knitted together. It'll make more sense in the other video. But that's it. After that, you just have to weave in your ends, and this one glove here took me, I believe, half an hour. So super simple. You can use any color combination that you want, and it's a super cute, well-fitted glove. Also, a quick tip for weaving in that final end. Go ahead and take your end and actually loop it through the first knit stitch. From there, bring it back through the loop the tail just came from. And it'll blend right in. If you're confused about the pattern, please comment so down below and I would be happy to help you out. And if you could give this a like and a subscribe to see more of my lovely face, I would greatly appreciate that. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!